And we're back. All right. It's been a longer break than usual. We skipped a week because of InfoComm, but it's good to see you.
Indeed, yeah. How was that? That seemed like a long old week. I was looking at some of the tweet. Is that Orange County? I think wasn't it, David? How did that go for you?
It was good. Orlando, is Orlando its own county or is it Orange? I don't know. I get it mixed up.
Yeah,
But near Disney World, which I didn't go to. I should go. I live in Florida. I think I get a discount being a resident. So I really actually I should go. I should go more often. But it's one of those things you never. You know, we could always do it another time. But the event itself, obviously, it can't be an A plus because my buddy Tim wasn't there. It would have been good to have a tea, a coffee with you. But otherwise, it was a successful show. I did a little self promotion here. Um, I'll put a link below, but on the Let's Do Video YouTube channel, I have a wrap up video. It was tough because I had so much to tell, but I didn't want to put up a 3 hour video. So I talked about 24 companies, and I gave them each like 30 seconds to a minute. I tried to just do one cool thing about each of the companies I talked about. So you could check that out below. I'm not going to do a second wrap up here with Tim right now, but obviously I would love
I
for you
really
all
enjoyed it,
to
David. I
watch
think
that
you did
video.
a good job of curating a lot of content there. So yeah, I think a lot of our viewers will really appreciate that. Well done.
Thank you. It was fun. I kind of gave myself a break because what I did is I just talked about the one thing that I personally liked about each one. So it was kind of fun for me to talk about. But I should spend a minute to talk about the show as a whole. I had my doubts. It was, uh, you know, it, when an industry takes a hit, like the events industry took a hit during the pandemic. I mean, everything took a hit during the pandemic, but the events industry, the in-person events industry, it was like talk about just a punch to the face. And how do you come back from that? So you really worry, is it going to be like it was before? But it felt like it was before. It didn't feel weird. It didn't feel weird. It didn't feel like it wasn't the same. It felt like the same old Infocom that we all love. And the numbers were there. Was 36,000 registered and almost 30,000 confirmed that actually showed up. It was the booth traffic was good. Um, and so it was a good show. I went to the sessions. I enjoyed the sessions. There's always good content. Oh, and a little self promotion. I have confirmed now that next year I am part of the team on the video production and streaming track. So I'll be hosting,
Excellent.
moderating some sessions, more information. I guess the people see the little kitty cats and they think, wow, he's got kittens on his stream. Must know what he's doing.
Phenomenal amount of exhibitors as well, over 7,000, I understand. So that must have been incredible. That floor must have been packed.
Yeah, they always trick me at InfoComm because I walk and I walk and I walk and I'm looking at all these booths, looking at all this cool stuff, and I'm like, oh, there's the end. And I get there, I'm like, okay, now I'm like, oh no, there's an entire another hall. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna walk through this hall. There's the end. There now I'm at the end. Oh, there's a third wing. It's so big and there's so many vendors and so much cool stuff. And just a random example, just random cool stuff. One booth was demonstrating touchless technology. And obviously there'll be some use for this in the meeting room someday. You wave your hand and the whiteboard comes up, and when you sit down, the meeting starts and whatever. But they had some they were like these two red bars, I guess, infrared rays or magic rays or whatever technology. I don't know what the technology was, but someone was holding his hand in between and doing this, and there was a video game, and he was driving the car. You go faster, you go slower, you go left, you go right, and he's playing the video game with his hand, no controllers or anything. And I don't want to make a whole justification of why that's relevant to this conversation or industry, but you see cool stuff like that at InfoComm. It makes it a fun show.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting because it's obviously that pro AV space. We do find, the consumerization of IT, a lot of things start off in the consumer space and then make their way into the commercial business space. It feels like test cases are made in the consumer world and then they map over to the enterprise world.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you see something in one of those small little booths that's very different, and then 3 years later you see it in every booth.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess
Oh,
I sort of think about VR and the way in which sort of has seen its resurgence with Apple sort of making their announcement in VR space, but there's still part of me that wonder where we're going to go with in the enterprise space.
Actually, let's lead into that next.
Okay.
One last comment on InfoComm though. Just
Mm.
brought to my mind. We talked about seeing something in every booth. Um, video bars. Video bars. That's what people. It's not the only way to do it. It's not the only thing that's selling. It's not the only thing that people want. But I think it's fair to say that it's dominating.
Yeah, well, my colleague Prachi Neymar, she sort of tracks that space and seeing 20% year over year growth in video bars. It's phenomenal. The amount of people that are sort of the amount of vendors that are really sort of focusing on that area, and the demand is clearly there. So it does seem that's the hot device of 2023 at the moment.
It makes sense. And to be fair, I think they're good. It's sometimes something floods the market, and it's like, be careful. There's a lot of cheap, junky ones out there. I don't think there's a lot of cheap, junky ones out there. I think what's happening is there are 3 or 4 leading vendors who make their own, and they have some unique, cool things going on there. And then there's a few big manufacturers that are making them for everyone else, and they happen to be good at this. Sometimes when you have a big manufacturer making something for everyone, like I said, some issues. No, they're good. So and this is so great for my big thing is I'm always about the people in the meeting room at the end. I should be worried about my sponsors and vendors and whether they're making money, but I want the people in the meeting room to be happy. And video bars, they look nice, they sound good, the camera isn't scary. It's not all big camera moving around as well. It's perfect.
Yeah, I was just trying to think when we're thinking about what's gone in this week. I mean, there's those intelligent directors. I know Zoom has announced an intelligent director capability. I think that's great when you're looking at the way in which software will uniquely frame people in the room, participants in the room, coupled with the video. And I know lots of vendors are sort of looking at these intelligent directors, these AI-driven directors that can cut to specific people. Mm-hmm. That to me is a fantastic combination where it does have more of that experience all used to, which is nicely framed people that we speak to remotely, and then you go into a meeting room and think, what on earth has happened? Why don't you just sit at your desk and I have a much better experience? So I think the video bars coupled with the advances in AI, facial recognition, intelligent framing, it's all coming together really nicely.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it before, but it doesn't stop being true that when we're at home, to have it framed right, oh, look at me, I'm perfectly framed, I'm right in front of my camera, I got my microphone right in front of my mouth, and this is what you look like at home. Hey, look at you, you're perfectly framed. But then we go to the meeting room, and we're small, we're far away, we probably don't have a microphone right in front of us. So I'm very happy that the industry is tripping all over itself to solve this problem. They're putting a lot of resources into it. And at this point, I don't know if the camera sides are going to, because we have intelligent cameras that are solving it from a lot of different manufacturers. And then we have Zoom and Microsoft saying, you know what, you just put the cameras in the room and we'll figure it all out for you. That might be the right way, but it's fun to be watching and covering because we don't have a winner yet. We don't have a right way. We have a lot of cool stuff happening, but at least, and at the end of the day, it's going to solve the problem.
Yeah, we don't have a winner at this moment, but we certainly have some losers in terms of a category, and that's that very high-end, expensive telepresence unit that sits in executive boardrooms, and it's like having to the executive washroom, or it previously was. So those hundreds of dollars of high-end telepresence units seem to be on the decline, and we are seeing, a lot much better use of space, easy to remodel meeting rooms with these video bars. You don't need to have to close down floors and equip it with all sorts of different types of HVAC requirements, new colors for your walls and unique furniture. So yeah, it's making video a lot more accessible, which is great.
And as the former managing partner of a blog called Telepresence Options, I was as big a fan of telepresence as you could be. But yeah, I've said it then and I'll say it now. Telepresence was not the solution for every meeting room. It was for the CEO of Fortune 5 companies. I mean, it was for the top of the top. But what was why I still love it and I still believe in it is that technology trickle down. When Cisco spends millions of dollars to develop a system they're going to sell for $300,000, they might not sell a lot of those, but wow, did they learn a lot that goes into their $5,000 unit that is in every room.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And everything from the design aesthetics, the hardware I mean, yeah, there's a
Amazing.
lot of learning to be taken from that. Yeah. But that was,
but it wasn't the
that was
answer.
decades ago now, wasn't it, David? I mean, now we're seeing,
I had short
it
hair.
being taken out to the masses.
It was that far back. I can't help myself. One last thing at InfoComm, talking about solving, because the reason I want to say it, because it's you brought up, it's this problem of we don't look as good in the meeting room as we do. I won't do it again, but as we do in person, is we're going in on center of table again. Because I think we might have talked about this before, but we tried it before and we laughed at it and it didn't work, but it kind of made sense, but it didn't work. And now it's not just one kind of fringe outsider company trying it. It's a lot of our mainstream, not risk-takey kind of companies, companies that make products that they expect to sell, not companies that are technology demos. Is it time for center of room? I love the concept. The reason I love it, eye contact. For me, that's it.
Yeah.
What do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I remember back to the days at Microsoft Roundtable, all the way back there, and thought that was really cool technology then. But now with the added advantages of the way in which the software's moved on and facial recognition, facial tracking, I think now is the time. Of course, it's got to be priced correctly. We don't want to be spending lots of money on new licenses or pro licenses or pro plus or whatever it is. But yeah, maybe the timing's right. Maybe not for every meeting room, but certainly for, I have a feeling that that's going to see resurgence.
I think the technology's gotten so much better since we last tried this. If I remember correctly, the old one, once you set it down, it's like, don't touch it. Once you get it configured, don't move it. And you can't do that on the table. And these, you just put them down and move it over a foot, and the intelligence is up. It knows where everyone is. It knows what a person is. So yeah, it's part of the technology is ready, and part of it is, I think, we're ready. I think we're more accustomed to new, different video technologies in the meeting room. I think people will be more accepting of it.
Definitely. So that was InfoComm, or is there anything else there that, I mean, how far did you make it into InfoComm without hearing about generative AI? It seems to be like you can't wait. I think the longest I've waited is about 3 minutes before someone has mentioned Gen AI in a conversation or in a vendor briefing. So what was the key topic, do you think, or any key takeaways?
It wasn't as bad as Enterprise Connect, I think, because Enterprise Connect is a lot of our software vendors that are doing the keynotes and stuff. So, Cisco, Zoom, Google, what are they, Microsoft, what are they going to be talking about? They're talking about AI, because that's, they're spending billions of dollars on it, and it's completely changing their products. So yeah, but InfoComm's a lot of hardware. There's a lot of displays. There's a lot of technology to get video over IP networks. It's a lot of nerdy stuff, which I like. I'm worried that it might turn off some of my audience because I like to do fun video stuff, and all of a sudden I'm really interested in like video over IP networks and display technology. So, and cameras. So since it was a lot more hardware, it was less in your face, but it was still there.
Right. Good. What else have we got to talk about?
Let's talk about you started to bring it up, the Apple thing. Fascinated by Apple Vision. I think a lot of people aren't getting it because the difference between AR and VR, and the difference is the VR is what Zuckerberg did last year that I still can't even talk about without laughing because it was so bad. That was VR, and it was a complete blinders over your face. You cannot see the real world. You only see the Zuckerberg world. And that's great. I mean, there's a lot of video game stuff like that is so much fun. But this looked, I think that was part of the problem is we have these amazing video games that use these things, and Zuckerberg comes out with his, and it looked like a really bad, low quality version of it. You see people walking around, they had no legs. They were just torsos floating around. They were
Yeah.
pixelated. They were low resolution. It looked like the technology from 10. It was so bad, and he so didn't get it, and it so turned us off. And it was this huge clunky headset. And then Apple comes out, and and this is the big news story, which is these aren't available yet. They're not even prototypes. You can't get them, but I got one. There it is. And these are VR because I could see through them. Now, first of all, I made them massive, cartoonishly massive on purpose just to get that out of the way. Because everyone's saying, I'm not wearing these ridiculous used things. When you see them for real, you're going to say, oh, they're not that bad because now I'm making you see this. But yeah, I'm not going to walk through the grocery store in them. They are silly. But eventually they're going to be glasses. So I want to talk about the concept, not the fact that they look silly, I'm not going to wear them. By the way, I am going to wear them. I don't mind looking silly. I'm wearing these things. And the other thing is the price. Yeah, it's way too expensive. Not going to argue that. But what I want to talk about,
$3,500. Yeah.
I can get a used car for that. Yeah, that's any piece of hardware that I can get a used car. I really have to think about it.
Well, if I'm paying that much, I want to look like Geordie LaForge from Star Trek. So it's a shame the the aesthetics are good, aren't they? Because as I understand it, David, you've got a camera on the inside that projects your eyes on the outside. So it makes it a lot more engaging. It makes it look as if you're looking at someone.
Yeah, you could see.
So there's some interesting smarts that they're doing there.
And I can see the real world. And that's what is amazing to me is the use case. Imagine if you're walking down the grocery store, and assuming it's a version of these that look like regular glasses, so you don't look silly, and everything looks normal, but the items on your grocery list are blinking green on the shelf. So you go down the spices aisle, you need the oregano. Where's the oregano? You don't have to look for the oregano. It's blinking at you. And it's the brand that you like, and it's on sale. And then later you're in your garage and you're working on your car, and there's a bolt that's loose. And you look over at your wall of wrenches. They're all different sizes. So which size wrench fits that wall? You look at the bolt, you look at the wall, and the wrench that you need starts blinking red at you in real life. Grab it. Or if forget about home, working, you're a new mechanic learning. And you open the engine, and the part that you need to do lights up at you. This is just guidance through the real world. There's so many applications.
So at the moment, that uses pass-through technology. So you use color cameras and depth sensors to get your environment around you. And I know that Facebook have announced their Quest 3. In fact, they announced their Quest 3 before, Meta announced their Quest 3 before Apple released their Apple Vision Pro. Still quite expensive, but you can see specific use cases in areas perhaps like manufacturing, healthcare, where those sorts of, it would be interesting for training. If you're doing if you're a consultant and you're doing a surgeon and you're doing operating theater I can imagine this being really, really interesting. I've even seen use cases in our local estate agent for some of the very expensive homes around this area, and there's some beautiful ones. I'm sure everyone's got some beautiful areas, neighborhoods there where they'd like to live, where you can put on your VR goggles and you can take a 3D tour around the house that you might want to buy. So I can see some very specific use cases. I'm still a little bit reserved, as I think we've mentioned, about having VR on a one-to-one. I'm not too sure if that adds any value, but webinars for sure. It's a very immersive experience. Maybe even going around a virtual event like Enterprise Connect or something like that. I've no doubt it's going to come here, but it's a bit of a sticker shock. When you look at the price, I know even the Quest 3 is about $500 when that comes out in autumn. But if we can't get headsets,
it's a sticker shock and a fashion issue.
Yeah.
But imagine you go to Paris and you put them on and you walk out of your hotel and there's a yellow path to the first museum you're going to go to. And there's a holographic guide that's following you around that knows you and says, hey, you really want to go into this wing. You don't want to miss these paintings. And and then the path goes to the Eiffel Tower. It just, the city winds up having, virtual guides for you, indicators, probably
Which is
ads.
interesting because we've got the VR and we've got AR. And of course, one vendor enters, another one leaves. That sounds like Thunderdome. That's a Thunderdome reference back to the 80s. I'm my age
Yes.
now. But Google have announced that they're pulling away from their AR.
And
web.
they were one of the
So
first with the Google Glass.
absolutely. So we are seeing some interesting dynamics taking shape there. I've no doubt it's coming. I don't know how long it will take to get there, but I think, again, we're going to start in the consumer world and it will make its way into very specific verticals, very specific use cases in the enterprise. Hopefully we'll get some more mainstream adoption, but sometimes it's difficult to get an enterprise to commit to giving decent headsets for remote workers, let alone VR goggles. So
Yeah,
it's
the price
certainly
has to
something
come
that's
down.
coming. Yeah, it's something that's coming, but I think the pace of change will probably take a lot of us by surprise.
I think it kind of goes back to the telepresence thing. You know, not everyone got telepresence, but telepresence sold the concept of video conferencing. And not everyone's going to
Yes.
buy this. But when the applications come out for this, the few people that do have this are going to put out their videos on YouTube and show what it looks like walking around in an augmented world and how much easier their life is when everything's just pointed out for them. Here's where you go next. Here's where your thing is. That's going to sell the concept better than I'm explaining it now. This is going to be fun. I should
think
take them off now.
Yeah.
Now, you shared some, emailed me some charts that I think are relevant to this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need some
So,
help with these.
okay. Yeah, there's a lot to take sometimes with these charts. It's not as easy as quadrants as we usually display. So yeah, we've got a number of things that we're doing, and this is some work that myself and my learned colleague Adam Holtby has been looking at. And what we've done here is we've looked at digital workplace investments. So this is the total funding of emerging technology. So what companies have got venture seed funding and capital funding in these different emerging areas? So have you ever watched, I'm trying to think of, is it All the President's Men with Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman back in the 70s? They were sort of looking into the Watergate scandal. Yeah, well, I think there's a line in there where, that's right. You got this government official meets Woodward, who's played by Redford in a dimly lit parking garage and is told to follow the money. That's exactly what we've done. So what we've done here is followed the money and sort of looked at, what particular areas are getting the most funding. And if you look in the lowest segment in terms of tracker funding in the top left-hand side of that bar chart, you can see on the far on the far left-hand side, enterprise metaverse has only really got about $4 million of funding, and that was made in 2019 in the bottom left-hand side of how that is distributed. The big days for enterprise collaboration was in 2020, where it got $650 million worth of funding. But the big ones are really in AI and also in customer relationship management, unified communications and collaboration. So what we've done there is really sort of shown how that money is distributed around different technology investments. So as you can see, right up the top, $1 billion in workplace automation and AI. That's where all the money is at the moment. Second, customer engagement. Third, enterprise collaboration. So gives you an idea of, how this money is being allocated from a seeding perspective.
So like $600 million going to productivity. Is that like funding for applications for, team management?
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be things like team management, things like project management software, the Asanas and the Trellos before they IPO'd, those sorts of applications. So it's quite an interesting representation of what's drawing the most sort of funding at the moment.
It seems like it feeds on itself. One of the biggest businesses is doing, one of the biggest work is doing more work. Being more productive so we can be more productive.
Interesting.
This is amazing to me. Should I bring up the second chart?
Sure. And if we can sort of, and this one is sort of looking specifically at artificial intelligence, and you can see that the amount of funding that it received in 2022. So this is the distribution before AI. You can see exactly at the spot where perhaps Microsoft put in their investment in OpenAI and ChatGPT was launched. So you can see very specifically how that funding, at what particular time it received the most funding. So yeah, it's been a really interesting way of plotting technology and what's emerging, what's hot technology, and what we hope to do with this one is sort of look at some of those emerging vendors and perhaps write write reports on what it is that they have got that's different, differentiated, and why it's attracting so much attention. So, but I just thought it'd be interesting to show, in the big scheme of things, that enterprise metaverse is, although it's an emerging technology, it's not got a great deal of funding there, and where, following the money, that's where the most investment's going.
Yeah, not yet. I think if Zuckerberg had done a better job with the launch of Meta, those numbers would have been very different. Everyone would have been making apps to be there because that's where the people would have been. But no one was going to wear that headset. No one wanted to be a goofy torso with no legs.
And of course, as you rightly point out, David, this is emerging technology in the enterprise space. It's not in the consumer. So I might have to have a word with my consumer colleagues and analysts and say, can you do this in the world of consumer and see what that's like? Because it may be a very different picture. And as they transition away from, or transition from consumer to enterprise, we might see that that'd be an interesting one to watch. I'll put that on the things to do list.
What's blowing my mind the most is the chart all the way to see, stage left, my right, showing 2019 to 2022, and that massive jump, which you explained is the Microsoft ChatGPT. But if we had that big of an investment in 2022, and it is now June 2023, that means any second now, we might be expecting amazing things to happen. That money didn't just get thrown away. Something good or something cool or something different is going to happen with that money. And if it was spent a year and a half ago, we should start seeing some stuff.
And we are, aren't we? I mean, there's some, I mean, you can't seem to avoid any sort of, that there's all different types of co-pilot. I know that Microsoft is trying to brand around this idea of co-pilots, but this idea of augmented insights as opposed to artificial intelligence is where we're trying to sort of position AI, because there's nothing artificial about it. It's certainly very intelligent. It's passed the Turing test in a number of cases, and you wouldn't be able to tell if you're on a chatbot whether or not it's a human being or virtual agent in some ways. So we are seeing some really interesting things taking shape at the moment. Most of it is augmented, so it's suggested responses. And that could be, for me, that could be an intelligent email reply or an intelligent summary. If you're an agent in a call center looking at having post-call summaries, you can get AI to generate that so it can transcribe the recording and then suggest an intelligent summary to you. And shaving off, 30 seconds, 40 seconds to a call is significant. So we're seeing some of these applications taking place. So I have no doubt, during the course of all of these events in the fall, we're going to see vendors coming up with this is what we're ready to launch, or this is the shape of things that to come in 2024. So very exciting times, I think.
Yeah, we talked about it before, and it's getting long. We have one more topic, but it's amazing how the magic is what you mentioned, the Turing test, the feeling like it's human. We've had intelligent meeting summaries for a while, and they've been really good for a while. We've had a lot of this stuff for a few years, but when ChatGPT hit, there's something magical about it. When I know it's not alive, I know it doesn't have feelings. When I'm going back and forth with it and trying to get stuff out of it, I'm worried about hurting its feelings. No, I don't want to say that. That's rude, because you get frustrated with it. It's trying. I want to be nice to it. I want to be nice to it. It's not alive, but it feels like it's alive. It feels like I'm dealing with a person, and people will be writing books on this for years, but for some reason, that is the magic game changer.
Yeah, and such huge potential there to improve productivity, allowing AI to take the place of all the transactional stuff that we don't really care about, and for us to focus on the real work and the deep thinking.
Exactly. Yeah, the stuff we wanted. So that ties into our last topic, which is about our role as analysts influencers, external marketers. There's a lot of kind of different hats that people like us wear in the industry. And what brought this to mind is when I was at the Neat booth at InfoComm. One of my contacts, Amy Martin, she had her badge. Her title is Influencer Relations. And I don't think I've seen an influencer relations person in our industry before. I'm not saying there aren't any, but might not have noticed. Usually analyst relations. And so I've been talking with some of my fellow analysts about that. And some things have changed because of social media. But at the end of the day, I kind of think it's much ado about nothing. I think I don't think we're changing that much. I think at the end of the day, there's always been a spectrum. Like Tim, a lot of what you do is objective. It's math. It is spreadsheet. It is numbers. It's not influencer stuff at all. It's not, I like the flavor of this coffee, this tea, or I like the quality of this camera. There is some analyst opinion. You do, a range of stuff, but you do some stuff that is just purely objective. I lean towards more, having purple hair and doing fun videos, but I also do some objective stuff. That we all do a little bit of everything, and I think it's always been that way, and I think that's not going to change. I don't think the stuff that you do better than me and do more of than me, the spreadsheet stuff, the hard research, it's not losing its value. It's not going away. The vendors still need that. That's not going anywhere. Some of the stuff on the other side is changing, but there's always been that influencer aspect. And I know I'm talking a lot. I'll let you get a word in at some point. But in my mind, everything we do is some form of the white paper model, which I love. I think it's perfect. I think it's fair for everyone. And the white paper model is, let's say I believe in eye contact. I'm passionate about it. If I give you a white paper on eye contact, the first 5 pages are going to have some meat. I'm going to do some research. Or even if it is just opinion, it's going to be well thought out opinion. It's going to be valuable. You're going to after you read it, you'll be like, oh, I'm glad I read that. And the next 3 pages are going to be a sponsor who has a new center of table camera that we just talked about. That makes the eye contact better. That's fair. There's nothing wrong with that. And a webinar is the same thing, but more fun in my opinion. And a lot of what we do is kind of like a white paper. And I don't think that's changing. And
yeah, I think both. Oh, I'm going to have to think. Oh, yeah. Well, okay. So I think you've got the assess and analyze part of the role, and then you've got the amplify part. So I almost look at the influencers as being more of the amplify. So what's the core messages of the vendor? Why are they differentiated? Why are they good at what they do? I think that's more the amplify stuff. I think the assessment and the analyst side is still, I think that the perfect trifecta is all 3, but I think there are some firms and some people that focus on the first 2 and then others that focus on the other one. So I guess there's the assess, the analyze, and the amplify side of all of those. And I think we as analysts, we need to certainly view social media as a channel for a lot of our messaging. But there are lots of people that do really excellent amplification and can get that message out, that can write content really well. Dominic Kent, I hope you're listening. He's clearly an exemplar of someone that knows exactly how to write proper content well. And they're very unique at what they do. And of course, if you're a vendor, you need a mixture of all of those sorts of things, the people that can assess and analyze and also amplify. So it's
I don't think Dominic would call himself an analyst, but I think I would call him an analyst. I think he would say that he's a freelance content creator, and he creates great content. But he's been working for Mio, this company that has a unique a unique solution for chat. He's been so neck deep in chat. The guy knows more about chat than just about anybody. He absolutely has.
You've got to know what you're writing about. You've got to know what you're writing about.
He could do. I don't think he chooses to, but he he could do analyst work when it comes to, when it comes to UC, but he would, I don't think he would say that he's an analyst. But like I said, it's this whole spectrum. I think he's
Yeah.
one of us. I think he's one of us.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's an interesting blend of different people, and therefore vendors will have to think of the AR, the AR person as AR, IR, any sort of relation. They've got to manage that. They've got to look at ways in which they can sort of get their message out, and listen carefully to what, it's a two-way thing. It's not only amplifying the brand of the vendor's event, it's also listening to what analysts and people have, because we listen to, we have voice of the customer, voice of the partner. We hear what's going on out there. You spend time in labs assessing things. We spend a lot of time evaluating and tearing down all the features and functions and what the market's doing and how that's moving. It's a two-way street, but I think you're right. I think this is a very interesting mix of people that use social as a channel, people that use a subscription model as a channel. It's all blurring.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think, people who know us publicly, they see us on YouTube, they see us on Twitter, and they might think, oh, these guys get paid to tweet, basically. But it is a back and forth. It's not just amplification. When Zoom or Ring Central or whatever flies us out to California to meet with their executives, it's not, okay, here's what we want you to tweet. Here's what we want you to put on YouTube. Here's what you want to amplify. It's like, they're like, tell us what you think about this. And some of us have no, I'll say if I don't like something, but I'll try to see, some of us say, you guys are crazy. You can't be doing that. Your pricing is wrong. Your go-to-market is wrong. And we let them have it. And that's not influencer stuff. And that's not going to change. I love those events, by the way.
Yeah, me too. It's great to be able to share honest feedback. You get interesting insights into, well, we tried that and it didn't work. So it's like, oh, why didn't it work? Oh, well, this customer didn't like this feature, or they didn't think that was that wasn't a focus area for them. So it really is a good two-way dialogue, and it helps us refine our research and helps vendors hopefully refine their products and services that they offer to clients.
So I think, at the end of the day, there's nothing really changing, and I just been hearing a lot of discussion about this lately. What is it that we do? Is the role changing? Are we now influencers? Are we now analysts? It doesn't matter. We can call yourself whatever you want. A lot of times I say external marketing. A video of me checking out your earbuds in my voice, might have more value than one from your internal marketing team. Is that analyst work? Is that influencer work? Is it external marketing? At the end, as long as it's creating good content and as long as it's honest content, which it is, I don't like the implication. Sometimes you get the implication of, your sponsors get better. And any analyst, not just me, any analyst in our space, read their stuff, watch their videos. There's nothing that can't be. If they like something, it's likable. So I don't know. I just feel like I felt like a little defense of our industry. I like the people that we work with, and I'm proud of what we do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Is that a good note to end the stream on?
I think so. Yeah. Oh, happy 4th of July. I know that sounds a bit strange coming from a person that's British, but have a fantastic 4th of July.
Thank you. Appreciate it. It'll be good food. That's for sure.
Fantastic. Sounds good.
All right. And I'll see you in 2 weeks. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care.
Bye-bye.